Hello, everyone. It is so great to be here today. I get to be here with a longtime friend and somebody who I massively admire. We have Nicole Quinn here, and she is brilliant. I've actually had the good fortune of having her on my board in one of the companies I was part of, Girl Boss, and that's where I got to really get to know her and her brilliance and her wisdom. So I'm excited we're going to be having her share that with you today. But without further ado, I'm Allie Wyatt, co-founder and CEO of Female Founder Collective. We also have the 10th Haus, which is our private membership community. As just a heads up, you're going to be hearing tomorrow what our next cohort is. We have industry-focused cohorts. We let them in once every 2 months, and then we have a whole host of programming centered around what those founders' experiences are, as well as resources and tools that you can get connected to very quickly to shortcut the founder journey and process. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I'm going to go into Nicole's background. I know that I shared that I got the good fortune of working with her, but she's general partner at Lightspeed Venture Partners, where she focuses on consumer, FinTech, and health investing. And consumer behavior, founder insights, and company brand are core to her mind. She is on the board of beehiiv, Lightyear, Multiverse, Calm, Daybreak, Goop, Cameo, and Lady Gaga's Haus Labs. And earlier, she had sourced Rothy's and Zola for Lightspeed. So super excited to have her. I don't know how you keep up with all those boards. As a side note, I was talking to another venture friend of mine, and she's on something like 25 boards. I'm like, I have no idea how you can keep up. But anyways, wanted to sort of dig into the questions because we also have tons of questions from the founders that are joining today. And the first question is really around your philosophy as an investor and what types of brands and companies you invest in and why. I know you talked a little bit about the industry, but would love to just dig in a little bit more on the types of companies and overall investment philosophy.
Okay, first of all, making sure that there's not background noise here because I'm working from home today, and I feel like my little 1-year-old is going to wake up at any moment. So I just let her know that I'm on an important call with all of you to make sure that you don't hear one in the background. Ali, first of all, you just sort of want me to touch on what I look for in founders and companies, correct?
Yeah. And general philosophy around investing.
Okay, general philosophy. I like that. When I first started at Lightspeed, which was about 10 years ago, I used to do a lot of pre-product market fit investing. And now, as we've got larger, I focus on post-product market fit, but I always like to say it's just at the point of finding product market fit. And so for me, it's when you're starting to see leading indicators of a true brand emerging. And so what does that mean? Like, how can we kind of tell?
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you define that, right? How can you tell?
So for us, there's say 4 or 5 different ways to measure it. So we like to look at, like the customer NPS. Like, do customers, however many customers you have at that point, do they love your brand? So what would be the NPS that they'd give you? Then, are they coming back? What does the repeat rate look like? Are they using you once and like, I didn't really like that much, and then not coming back again? Or are they coming back weekly, monthly? Then it's referral rate. It's all well and good if you love the product. Do you love it so much that you're calling up your friend Ali and telling Ali, hey, you need to buy this product as well?
Great.
Then it's social media. And we definitely look at the engagement, the sort of like likes to follower count, and to see like how much people are really engaging with the social media in both a quantitative and qualitative way. And then also the word of mouth, like, what does that really look like on and offline? So those are some of the things that we tend to look for.
Super helpful to know too. And because you talked about number, as far as the customers, you do have the NPS, which is Net Promoter Score for anybody listening and not familiar with that term. It's a great thing to measure, by the way, for yourself and as a metric for your investors. But in terms of the number of customers, is there a certain sort of number of customers? And what if if they haven't launched yet? Do you invest pre-launch?
So we did invest in Lady Gaga's Haus Labs pre-launch,
Yeah.
but we did diligence for many months beforehand on does Lady Gaga have an authority in beauty, in color cosmetics? Was
Yeah.
like she definitely does in music and in acting,
Yeah.
and probably in like the amazing outfits that she wears. But does she in beauty? And through honestly reading through tens of thousands of comments online, we got to the point where we feel like, yeah, she does have a right to win in beauty. And we felt like if you take her, say 100 million followers, what percentage of those will convert into a beauty brand? And so we did that one pre-product market fit or pre-launch, but we had some indicator that people would buy this product. And I'll come on later to like the highs and the lows and the many learnings through this. But to us, it doesn't matter the number. Like I often say, it doesn't matter what the N is. It matters how much customers are engaging with you and all the other factors we just talked through. So I think you need to have enough customers that it's statistically significant to show that they really love your product. But it doesn't necessarily need to be
10 to all your family members.
Exactly. Yes. It needs to be beyond the family. That's exactly right. Can't be 10, needs to be in the 1,000.
Got it. I think that's super helpful just for people to gauge as they're sort of thinking about that. It's a common question we get asked. And then when you're thinking about things, outside of financials, are there certain reasons why you wouldn't invest in a brand or a company?
So I saw this question before and I really loved it because definitely the first thing that comes up outside of financials, more importantly than financial, is the founder.
Yeah.
And so you always want to make sure that the founder is really bought in, really authentic, really trustworthy. Unfortunately, over the last few years, there have been many companies that haven't worked out because there's been fraud involved. And so you really want to make sure that this is somebody that you are going to be working with for the next 10 years and you trust each other implicitly, as you would with a
How do you
marriage.
gauge that?
By spending a lot of time with them,
Yeah.
by doing a lot of references. We've recently put in a background check into our diligence process. But I've never had any surprises through the background check because I've always, really tried to speak to somebody on a human to human level. And by the way, that was so hard in COVID. In COVID, it was like, oh my gosh, we're literally doing this and trying to like see whether someone's going to be trustworthy for the next 10 years.
A lot
But
easier to show up on Zoom than it is, for a meeting, and like the preparation looks different and the body language. So yeah, I can
really
imagine.
does. Exactly. Sort of like you want to like have a drink with somebody, go and have dinner with them, be there 4
Yeah.
hours later and see, what motivates them, what makes them tick. Like what is the chip on their shoulder that's driving them to do this and is still going to motivate them to do this in 5, 10 years time.
Yeah.
We invested, I think it's fine to say, but we invested in one of Kim Kardashian's prior businesses called Shoe Dazzle, who was subscription for shoes. And so, you got to the point where you're like, I've got enough shoes, and you would churn. So maybe there was an inherent issue in the business model, but Kim Kardashian moved on to like the next shiny thing. And so you want to make sure that this is somebody's like true like passion in life. And so Lady Gaga, for example, said to us, I've got 3 passions. It's music, it's acting, and it's beauty. And I know I'm going to be doing beauty for the rest of my life. And that's what you want to hear as an investor.
Right. Right. I love that. And in terms of, them being bought in, so to speak, and this wasn't one of my questions that I shared with you, but I'm just curious, is there a certain, when you're going through the terms, right? You've decided you want to move forward with this investment. Are there certain terms that Lightspeed or you in particular like to have as part of your overall deal together to ensure that the founder is bought in and sort of incentivized?
So,
or red flags of what a founder might ask for that might show that their intentions are not in the right place?
I really like to have very, very simple vanilla terms because I'm generally investing at the sort of early stage, like Series A, B, sometimes seed. And I want you'd always want to do the right thing by each other, not because of some legal document that says so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we don't operate, venture capital, I always think, is better than private equity in that the term sheets are much cleaner and simpler, and nobody's trying to protect the downside. It's sort of like, hey, listen, if your shares go to zero, our shares go to zero.
Yeah.
And you haven't got all these crazy sort of liquidity preferences sitting on top, or we never do warrants, with any kind of early stage deal. And so that's important to who we are. And I think
Yeah.
that then you're just sort of much more aligned with the founder.
Got it. And then in terms of metrics, I know you spoke to like net promoter score, but say you're a little bit further along, perhaps. What are those benchmarks or metrics that you're looking for consumer brands, and then maybe separately for more tech-oriented businesses?
So I'm definitely doing a lot in AI right now, and
I'm
and
so
including
interested
like
to
AI
hear
fashion.
how do you measure for AI?
It is so hard. So maybe I'll end with that one. I'll start with the easy
Yeah.
one. Um, uh, Anything CPG, fashion, beauty, is terrific because we can kind of see the revenue. And so, yeah, typically we want to see about 1 million in revenue for an e-commerce company a year, or if you're a marketplace, maybe it's like 10 million a year with a 10% take rate. So your sort of net
Yeah.
revenue is about 1 million. Um, and then we want to see, a lot around the sort of repeat rate and referral rates that I mentioned earlier. We're really focused on cohorts. And so I actually have a really great blog
Mhm.
that I'd encourage you to write. That I'd encourage you to read. One of my partners, Alex Tausig, wrote it. So if you search Alex Tausig, Taussig, and it's called Spaghetti Charts. And it's a really great way of looking at like the cohorts of your business. So like the first cohort, yeah, it's just going to be
Spaghetti shot?
family. Pardon?
It's called spaghetti shots?
Spaghetti charts.
Charts.
Um, CHARTS. And yeah, he always calls cohorts spaghetti charts. That's just sort of our little cute name for them internally. And so we're always like, how are the spaghetti charts doing? And the first cohort is probably your family. The second cohort is probably your friends. Third is friends of friends. So after the third cohort, what does it look like after that? And like, are
Yeah.
people retaining? Are people coming back? And so that cohort analysis is something we obsess about, and that's the way we sort of analyze it. You can kind of see through that chart.
Is there like a number in terms of repeat purchase rate? I'm sure, like, let's talk about beauty for a second. For example, like, are there certain numbers that you're looking for repeat purchases?
I'm glad you said beauty specifically, because I was going to say it really depends on the category. And so, like, for example, men's fashion, 2 times a year is good. Whereas women's fashion, depending on the price point, 5 to 10 times a year is good.
Yeah.
So,
I'm interested to know how many times people should be coming back and shopping women's fashion. I'm glad to know I'm in line,
nice, Sally.
not over the over.
And so beauty, it definitely depends on the category, but for example, with, I would say, foundation and concealer, it's just such a strong repeat category. And so when people run out every, sort of couple of months, you want to see them coming back and shopping again with you.
Yeah.
Um, and then, there's other areas like mascara, which maybe you're only going to buy those a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
But so the high repeat items, lip gloss, foundation, concealer, we definitely want to see them multiple times a year, 5
Are
plus.
are there places like certain statistics or things you can subscribe to as a founder, or places you look to benchmark those to understand what the market says?
It's
Is there
really
a norm?
blogs from VCs, I would say.
Yeah.
So my partner Faraz Fatimi and I recently wrote one on social media metrics, and so what
Yeah.
kind of metrics you want to see in social media. And so those are things like you want to see like a flattening or a smile curve of your users coming back after 180 days or so. You want to see the daily active users to monthly active users ratio of a third or better. You want
Mm.
to see that people are using it more than of the daily active users, you want to see that they're using it, say, 3 times or more a day. We were early investors in Snapchat, and those were the early numbers that we saw back then. And that's why we got really excited about it, even when they only had about 9,000 users. So yeah, those are the some of them. And honestly, I would just say like different VCs putting things on Twitter and other
Yeah.
blogs. Faraz and I do have a blog, which I would highlight. It's a beehiiv one, which is the company we invested in, and it's called Buzzworthy. So Buzz worthy.
Got it. Love it. Okay. I hope everyone's hearing this, because this is a big question we always get too, is like, where can I find this information to make sure that also when you're putting together your forecast, your model, and you are going out to these VCs, that you're well equipped with the information that they're seeing or how they're comping your business to other businesses' performances in the market. Super helpful. Are there certain strategies that you recommend for identifying white space in highly saturated markets, right? Like think about beauty. Beauty is super saturated. And so it's like, how do you, as an investor, think about those that have identified the white space? And then separately, if you were a founder, or maybe for you all as Lightspeed, right? Are there ways in which you're identifying, okay, here is the big problem area that we want to see solved? And if so, how are you guys identifying that?
So I agree with you that beauty is a crowded space. However, I still believe that there's a lot of white space in beauty.
Yeah.
And so I think that the more sort of scientific side of beauty right now is the demand definitely is greater than the supply. And so people really want these like very scientific products that, like color cosmetics, but also have anti-inflammatory properties to them, or retinol baked in, or, it's like great, sort of like your moisturizer in with your foundation. So it's actually good for your skin. And I think that we're going to see a lot more innovation in that area over the next few years, just because like the customers are really pulling that out of the brands. The customers are saying they want that. So I expect to see a lot more white space there. Listen, the biggest white space right now is AI. And I am so frustrated with how many enterprise companies there are in AI and so few consumer companies. And I was glad to see Michael Siebel from Y Combinator yesterday talk about this exact point. Who's like, where are all the consumer founders? And so I really think, for anybody listening, thinking about like how to integrate AI into your business, and I think every company will have AI in it within a couple of years, to some degree, whether you're AI native or not. But artificial intelligence is just growing at such a rapid pace. Like I do really believe that we're moving towards artificial general intelligence, as they say. And so what does that look like for fashion and beauty? Well, in fashion, we are definitely going to see that scene in Clueless where, she goes to her computer and it picks out the outfit, and then the rails turn around and it gives her the outfit that she wants. And even AI is going to be able to like predict kind of what you're in the mood for that day, and look at your calendar and say, okay, I know what, important meetings you have today. You should be wearing this outfit.
How nice would that be?
It'd be so good. Exactly. And like, similar things with beauty as well. Like we might be moving to a world where there are no more websites. Like every single CPG and beauty fashion company, it is all done through like an AI platform where, for example, say like an AI dermatologist will scan your skin, tell you what products you need, and then those products will be suggested to you. So still, all the brands will have just as much value. It's just that we will not buy those brands from the website. We will buy those brands from the AI dermatologist who recommends to us those Goop products that, will be great for our skin. And so I'm excited for that world. I think that will be just so much more personalized to each of us. So I really hope that some people in this call build in that space.
I think we do. I know that there are a lot of AI in beauty companies that are emerging. I haven't heard about it as much in fashion, but you're so right. It definitely needs to go there. I mean, it makes so much, and also for like limiting waste. It's just such a a relevant thing to do as well.
So
And I'm
true.
excited about it in terms of healthcare. I'm so bullish on that. And so I cannot wait for all of the things that are going to happen over the next few years.
By the way, on that note, I just want to say, so we invested in a company called Abridge. I've never seen a company grow so fast. So what it does is, instead of doctors, sort of taking their 10 minutes that they see you for and then 20 minutes afterwards to write out their notes, it just listens to everything the doctor says and it transcribes it. It's just like a doctor scribe.
Yeah.
And so they can see you for 10 minutes, then see the next person for 10 minutes. They don't have to waste
Yeah.
all this time on admin costs. And it's really, really working. So I'm excited to see more innovation.
I think I actually, I was just meeting with a healthcare system last week. I think they were talking about this. They're like, it's amazing because now instead of sitting in the doctor's office and those long conversations, and then the doctor has to remember too everything that you talked about and all the follow-ups. Now AI is transcribing that, and it's like, here are the action items, here are the follow-ups, here are the prescriptions, and then the doctor reviews it, and if it looks good, then it's like it just sends out automatically, and just like the amount of time that saves is amazing. And I think what's amazing is actually taking that transcription and distilling it down in records so that ahead of an appointment, you can also be a lot more efficient with, like, you can come to the appointment with solutions as opposed to like a full download, right? So
exactly right.
Anyways, a lot of exciting things. What can you speak to maybe a company that you've seen be successfully founded and capitalized on a white space in a crowded sector, or a couple other businesses other than a bridge that you've been really excited about?
I mean, I would say, I hope that is basically everything that we do. And so, you know what, I'll talk about Calm. So Calm started off as a meditation app. And we actually laugh at Goop about the fact that, many, many years ago, 50 years ago, people used to be like, you're running? Why are you running? You're running from something? And then it was like, okay, no. Then it became accepted that was exercise. And then the same with meditation. Meditation was something that people thought was this weird hippy dippy thing. And then everyone realized, oh no, everybody should be doing this. Everybody should be doing this every single day. But what was interesting with Calm, maybe there's some learnings in here for you guys, is that we passed on the Series A because we thought the numbers are really great in terms of like the growth, the engagement, the retention. They were retaining more than 50% of their users after 1 year. Of those people, after 1 year, 70% were retaining for the second year. So the numbers were really strong, but we just kept saying, how big a market is meditation? So then they launched Act 2, which was sleep. Now, when they launched sleep, things got really exciting because instead of people using it for 10 minutes a day, then they suddenly were using it for 45 minutes a day, right? It was like the 10, 15 of meditation plus over half an hour for sleep. And then their retention numbers also really increased. And then people were telling other people about it, and the customer acquisition cost was much more attractive because it wasn't like, oh, should I meditate? Okay. It was more like, I need to go to sleep right now. I'm seeing this ad on my phone for Calm. I am paying for it right away because I need to go to sleep. It's sort of like, instead of it being a vitamin, it's a real painkiller. And so when we saw that, we felt like, gosh, this is a product that people really need. And then, now it's got so much in it, right? It's got so much around not just meditation and sleep, but also body work and exercise. I had a call with Jay Shetty this morning, who's this amazing podcaster on Calm. So you can kind of go on there to see that. So they just keep evolving. And yeah, I love that. They've found like white space in lots of different areas.
I love that you're speaking to also how consumer brands can evolve, right? Like you don't have to stay sort of doing the same things. You can that's a wonderful pivot, but still core to their customer. And they realize here, yes, there are people that meditate, but what's the even bigger issue that people have? And it's sleep. And that's a huge problem that then they can use their product that they already have existing to expand upon. what do you, from a brand perspective, because you're now, you're on the board of a lot of brands that have had longevity, right? And in order to have longevity, you have to have a really strong brand. How have you seen brands be able to maintain their relevance and have that sort of lasting impact, and then also expand who they're talking to continue to grow?
So it is really hard to do, as you say.
Yeah.
And most companies only have Act One. We actually invested in a company in China called Pinduoduo, and then through the incredible consumer insights that they saw, they then expanded into what is now Temu. And
Yeah.
so, don't know if anyone uses Temu, but I actually think it's better than Amazon.
I kind of love
And
Temu.
so,
I think I get an email or a text message from them all the time. I don't even know how they got my info, but I accept them.
I love it. And so it's really hard. Like that is so rare to really be able to add on like a second act. But from longevity perspective of Act One, well, there's really a lot of things that you can kind of do in your brand to maintain that longevity. So I think making sure you build up a habit. Goop's really good at this, right? Gwyneth Paltrow will do those videos of like, this is my morning routine. These are the 6 things I use every single morning and evening from Goop that go into my routine. And so that really helps to build, that repetition that's so important. Then Goop have also done these boxes, right? They're sort of like subscription boxes. And obviously there's like FabFitFun and, a bunch of other boxes like that. And Goops is really interesting. It's sort of like a subscription product. And so you keep subscribing to it. And I always say subscription only works in consumables. So you really want to make sure this is a product that is consumed very quickly, not something like a shoe. Subscription does not work in those other categories.
Yeah.
And so if you have a product that's consumable, then subscription boxes, subscriptions of any kind do work pretty well. And I think that as long as people don't get tired of it, that is a great way to really drive longevity. And then you need to make sure your brand is always fresh. So you're always kind of staying on top of what is the latest in consumer behavior and consumer wants and needs and desires, and just making sure that your brand speaks the same language. And so, that probably is, having a person internally or working with a marketing agency that is very fresh on all the different trends. So those are some things I'd say, Ali.
In actually talking about Goop, it's something they do really well, I think, is surprising partnerships. It's like they do partner, like they did like Kourtney Kardashian and Goop did a partnership where it's like you almost think of them as competitors, but they did a collaborative, really funny thing together. And like they had the Goop dive, so they do a really good job of just when you think you know who the brand is, surprising and delighting you, but then unlocking a new customer base in doing so, right? But like the right customer, but somebody who maybe was like, I don't know if Goop is like for me, but it is actually for them. But they don't realize it until that partnership happens and it's put through a different lens.
Well said. I like that. Also bringing humor to your brand, I think works well in many different situations.
Yeah, I totally agree. You talked a little bit about consumer insights earlier. Are there certain ways that you look at consumer insights when you're evaluating a consumer brand ahead of time? And what kind of insights or tools do you look at ahead of making an investment?
There's many different tools that we have at Lightspeed. And so we actually have built our own data set, but otherwise we look at something called Second Measure, which gives you credit card data. And so we'll look at tools like that internally. We'll also look obviously through social media, and then believe it or not, but like old-fashioned magazines. My partner Jeremy and I would always kind of go through like Cosmopolitan magazine and be like, how are young people thinking these days, and how are they reacting to this exact brand? Is FabFitFun becoming more or less popular? And so anywhere that you can get an idea of how like that exact target customer is reacting, responding, is the right place to go. And then we do a lot of surveys, so we'll actually go to the customers and ask the customers, what do you love about this product, and do our own customer survey work, maybe through Facebook or SurveyMonkey or any of those other surveys.
And how do you identify that? Is it you just take whatever target they have in their presentation, for example, and then you take that kind of cohort and message out to them?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
That's super interesting. And by the way, founders, that's a great thing for you to do as well on your end, to show sentiment and get some insights, even if you don't have a ton of data right on your revenue yet, or like the repeat purchases. I want to go to some of the questions from our members because there's a lot of them, and I think they have some really great questions around just sort of the vehicles. Like one founder had asked specifically for a business like Calm or consumer software business. She wants to hear your advice on non-dilutive startup financing ahead of getting to that. And this is a question, frankly, a lot of times for all of our founders, but for a lot of our tech founders, is like, when do I go out if I don't have the metrics to attract institutional financing? Then how do I go out and get non-dilutive financing?
I saw this question and I like it because, gosh, if you can go out and get non-dilutive financing, then do that all day long.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of clean tech companies are doing it that way. I know folks that have relationships with different universities are getting grants through those universities. Winning different competitions and getting non-dilutive financing that way. Basically just getting money when you don't have to give up equity on your cap table, especially the early days when it's going to be the most punitive / expensive for you, is a great thing. Also, interesting, like there's several countries in Europe, like the UK, for example, that give non-dilutive financing. They also give special terms to angels when they're investing really early. It's amazing, the ecosystem that's built up in the US, given that the government doesn't give us all these things.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just a way for Europe to try and catch up with the US, is why they're all offering some of these. But if any of you guys are building your company over there or have dual citizenship with somewhere in Europe, I would definitely see what non-dilutive financing options are available to you through that country or your early schools that you went to. Applying to any competitions that are out there. The government are particularly focused on semiconductors right now, and AI and clean tech. So any companies there, there'll probably be grants available.
Yeah. I've seen some of our founders have gotten up to like $8 to $10 million of grants. Like these aren't necessarily, $5,000 grants where you're like, okay, now I have to go get, 10 of those at least to just get my first MVP off the ground. I would also say,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where did they find most of those? Because those are really sizable checks.
So it wasn't one individual check, but it was mostly government. And actually it's in semiconductors. So just what you were saying, I think, you can be in a category where there's a lot of incentives to innovate in that area. So it was through, I think, university as well as government sponsored grants. The other thing though, that I like to tell these women is like, and the mistakes that I've made is not, I think you have a really good idea of what your tech product could and should look like. And even for consumer, you make the mistake of investing too much on a guess and on a hypothesis. And as a founder, the hypothesis drives you forward, and what makes you good is that you'll, will it into being. But at the same time, you can test things in a different way. So maybe do one feature out of the set of 5 features that you were going to do and get pre-sale. Like I've seen a lot of creativity happening. I wouldn't say innovation happening, where founders are doing a lot of sort of pre-sale work and sort of getting these shortcuts to get revenue in the door to fund some of the things that they're doing, but also to prove out their hypothesis before making that huge investment. And if you can get a little bit further along, then you can go to people like Nicole and Lightspeed and say, I think with this amount of money, I can get to this many thousands of users, because you have a much better way of estimating that, right? So I very much believe in non-dilutive funding as much as you can in any industry. Another question from our founders is, what is your favorite startup story about a challenge that a founder has overcome? And I'm sure there's so many of these, because it's like, can't even imagine the number of challenges and things you've seen overcome by your portfolio businesses.
There's so many. I think I'll give one that was a real personal challenge.
Yeah.
The founder, called us like a year in and was like, "Hey, listen, I'm in rehab. I am an alcoholic. I thought that I had a grasp on it, and I've got to now really think about what is the right thing for the business." For us, it was like, first of all, are you okay? What can we
Yeah.
do to best support you? And then, yeah, let's think about, what's right for the business. Do you want to stay on as CEO? Do you want to move to a chairman or president role? And he did want to stay on as CEO. So we were like, great, let's support you. We can have somebody as like a kind of interim CEO while you're in rehab, and, over the sort of couple of months where you were just getting yourself better. And then he was able to step back in as CEO, and honestly was a great CEO for the next 5 years. And fortunately, that one time in rehab really was so helpful for him. But also it was, kind of surrounding him with like the right kind of like coaches and therapists and folks around him to be able to get him feeling 100%. And the reason I use that example is because we always talk about these business problems, but I really think that mental health is probably like the number one issue that we have, and we just don't talk about
Yeah.
that as a founder. One of our portfolio companies, Bonobos, the founder Andy Dunn actually wrote a really great book about this, talking about the mental health challenges that he went through while running Bonobos, and also once they were acquired by Walmart. He had, split personality. And he was, really kind of struggling with that. And he talks about it in so much detail. And it's so helpful when folks do, because it's like, hey, listen, we can speak openly about this. It's okay. Like, I love the fact this founder felt so comfortable to call his board member. He was like, I called my wife and now I'm calling you. And so it's like, great. That is exactly the kind of close relationship and that trusted relationship that I first talked about that we want to have. And then for us, we made sure that we give calm now to every single one of our, not just portfolio founders, but everybody in every company. We give Better Help, which is Better Up, sorry, which is a therapy marketplace. Better Up is one that's sold through businesses. So we give that to all the executive teams of any company that works with Lightspeed, because we really believe that, gosh, like, you need to make sure that your mental health is always sound and you have somebody to talk to if you want to. Especially so many founders are solo founders, and it can be such a lonely journey.
Yeah.
So you've got to, really kind of put yourself first. I love that phrase. You've got to be selfish to be selfless. And so put yourself first.
And it's interesting because, like your example with the founder that went to rehab, really he was probably unlearning putting himself very last, right? He was probably just so used to going, instead of being like, what do I need to be a great leader? And probably a lot of founders would do well to go through something that's akin to rehab as the business grows, to really teach them about how to put themselves first in a very healthy way, and how to seek help, by the way, and how to be vulnerable, which I think are all things that as a founder are really crucial, but it's honestly, it's really hard to do. we have another question from a founder around that she's just getting started and she's trying to understand the right way to position herself and give potential investors confidence. It's interesting that she used that word in funding her. Do you have recommendations for founders and I would say particularly beauty founders and consumer founders too on like how do they position themselves?
Yeah, let me take a minute to answer that. And then also, I want to take a couple of minutes to answer the AI question that Avery put in our chat. So I would say, number one thing around confidence is being yourself. And also, when you're pitching your business, like really be yourself, be your most authentic version of yourself. And then also, like, think as big as you possibly can. I think that founders want to hear this vision that if everything went right, how big could this be? If the whole industry worked in your favor, like if everything in this world was stacked in your favor and everything you ever did went right, then how big an opportunity could this possibly be? And how would you, grow the market as, Uber grew the market they were in, or Airbnb grew the market they were in? Like if that happened to your business, then how big would that be? And I would love for everyone listening to like tell that story to VCs, because that is what we get so excited about. And then Ali, should we talk about this AI point?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question was about AI specifically.
Yeah. Avery's just saying people want to hear more about the industry plus how to integrate into the beauty space. So I can talk about that a little bit. Okay, so if you go onto Haus Labs, Haus labs.com, and go to the foundation and click on find your shade, then I think that is a really good way to integrate AI into any business, but particularly beauty. And so it is, they do use the AI there to really, sort of judge your skin, answer those questions. And then we're definitely going into a world where generative AI can really kind of, generate what your skin would look like if you use these products. And then, take a selfie and really analyze your skin, or take a video of you moving, analyze your skin, and then say to you, these are the products that we'd really recommend. And then generate the images of like what you'd look like after like 3 months, 6 months, 2 years using these products. I did those recently. Lovey is one, Lovi, that does that as like an AI dermatologist. So I think they've done a really good job integrating it into their beauty business, into their business. And everybody should maybe be thinking about using AI for customer service. It is just so much more efficient to think about AI as customer service, other areas of operations, legal, companies like Even Up, accounting. I mean, it's going to be great for companies because it's really going to like free you up to do, like the creative and the idea side of the business. And you won't have to hire all these people to run finance and legal and customer service, because AI will be able to do that for you at a fraction of the cost. So I'm really excited about it being able to help all businesses.
Love that. And then I'm going to ask you one more question because we're just about out of time, but I want to end on something really impactful. I would say when you think about the star founders that have built the greatest businesses, what are a couple characteristics you think that they have, and what are some pieces of advice you might have for these founders?
Those founders like Max Levchin from a firm, or Lady Gaga or Gwyneth Paltrow, or Snapchat, Evan Spiegel. I would say that they are so laser focused. Like Gaga is amazing to work with because she never will like settle for second best. She's always like going for the biggest and the best version of what anything can be, and not stopping until you get there. And Max Levchin from a firm was just so deep into this space, and like, okay, how do we create this world where people can pay for what they want, but over time, and just make it so simple for them, and would run through walls to achieve that result. And so I think it's like that obsession with your business, and doing anything possible to get to the goal of creating this amazing product for your customers to have and enhancing their life as a result. And so we'd love to see people on this call doing exactly the same thing.
Love it. This is so helpful. You gave such tactical, practical advice, and also such far-reaching advice too. Like when it comes to mindset and taking care of yourself, it's just so incredibly helpful. And I can't wait to go in and read the comments, because I'm sure everyone felt the same as I did, just getting here and soaking up all of your knowledge and perspective. So thank you. Thank you. And for all of you listening, thank you so much for joining. And please, if you are interested, we do have our private membership community where we're talking about things like this. We're trying to figure out, how do you benchmark? What are your benchmarks? What are the tools that you're using? How, and then just this idea that entrepreneurship is lonely. It's incredibly lonely. Even if you have a co-founder, you're building something that is revolutionary. In order to do that, you have to be able to surround yourself with support from the best possible places you can. So thank you again, Nicole. You're always just so helpful and so generous with your time, and also so generous for women. So really, really appreciate it. And
amazing questions. Thank you, Ali.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone have a
Thanks,
wonderful
everyone.
rest of your week.
Bye, folks.
Bye, everyone.